Welcome back now to a story we've been following closely. Peter Strzok and the FBI. President Trump calling out Obama in an interview with Sean Hannity, alleging possible involvement between his predecessor and the disgraced FBI agent. Take a listen.
You know, you have to find out who did Peter Strzok report to, because it was Comey and it was McCabe, but it was also probably Obama. If you think that Obama didn't know what was going, when you watch, and I said it today with President Putin, when you watch Peter Strzok's performance, the lover of Lisa Page, when you watch that performance, the FBI, I'll tell you, I know so many people in the FBI. These are incredible people. What they're going through watching this guy, a total phony.
Joining us right now with reaction, former senior advisor to the Clintons, president and managing partner of the Stagwell Group and author of Microtrends Squared, Mark Penn is with us. Mark, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for weighing in.
Thank you.
So your thoughts on what has taken place in terms of Peter Strzok, what he has to say about his text, and now Lisa Page behind closed doors. What we're learning is there are some nuances, whereas Peter Strzok was saying, oh, I didn't mean this to mean Trump. I meant this as America. And Lisa Page, behind closed doors, apparently I'm being told that she said, oh, no, we meant Trump. What's your take on what we've learned so far from these testimonies?
Well, I think we've seen a series of witnesses here who've said some incredible things. I think Peter Strzok says, oh, that's out of context. I didn't mean that. It was, in essence, puffery. I mean, that's ludicrous. What we've learned, I think, from reports is that Lisa Page said, yeah, of course I meant that.
Right.
And of course, what you didn't get from Peter Strzok's testimony was how, if I exhibited this kind of bias, I used meticulous procedures to make sure that I acted appropriately. You didn't hear that at all. What you heard was basically balderdash. And remember, we've got here a series of witnesses. You've got the former FBI director who says, like, I didn't make the decision on Hillary until after the interview, when we have his memo written and edited before. We have the CIA director says, I didn't give the dossier to Senator Reid, when Senator Reid clearly knows what's in the dossier after he visits or talks to him. You know, you have obvious things here that are just untruths, and you really wonder why there's no action on any of this.
You really do. I mean, I spoke with John Ratcliffe, the congressman who basically has been seeing all the confidential and classified material, and you know, he noted significant differences in the two testimonies. Listen to this.
I can tell you is that Congressman Gowdy and I had 2 hours to question her on Friday. I can tell you that there are significant differences in her testimony from Agent Strzok as it relates to these text messages, what she thought some of them meant. And she gave us new information that he either wouldn't or couldn't, that confirmed some of the concerns that we have about these investigations and the people involved in running them.
So Mark, one of the texts from Peter Strzok was, Obama wants to know everything we're doing in terms of the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. Is that enough to suggest that Obama was basically calling the shots here?
Well, I think to say Obama's calling the shots was an overstatement. I think it's pretty clear that folks in the Obama administration knew about this investigation and wanted to preserve it, push it along, took all these steps, made this report, spread the information all over the place. I mean, that was clearly their intent. Whether Obama directed that, no one will ever know unless there is, in fact, an Obama deposition.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen here? Are we going to see accountability?
You know, there supposedly is someone in Utah that the Attorney General has tasked.
Yeah,
We've heard neither hide nor hair about Mr. Huber's investigation, whether or not any of these testimonies will be brought to bear. I am seriously doubting we'll see accountability. I think the question is, will we get this over fast enough? You can see how this is weighing on the presidency, how it's affecting our foreign affairs. This investigation is not doing the country any good.
Do you think it affected President Trump's performance at that press conference yesterday with Putin?
Oh, I've seen the stress with President Clinton that these investigations caused, and I have no doubt that the stress of that affected it, that the timing of these indictments then carried over to be a central issue here. Look, I think Trump should have, you know, held firm on the indictments, but nevertheless, our foreign policy shouldn't be made by prosecutors. Remember, Chinese were indicted for similar offenses in terms of hacking. No one hectors the Chinese premier. And the Chinese spent millions of dollars in the Clinton campaign in '96. No one hectors the Chinese premier. Foreign affairs trumps this.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary that I guess even at this point, the people who created this narrative are winning because it's tripping up the president. Because this whole narrative about collusion, which we are still waiting on any evidence. I mean, look, the special counsel, there were some rumors this weekend that he wants to close things up by the end of the summer. Do you think that's real? You believe that?
I think there's not a lot here left to investigate. It sounds like they're looking over Roger Stone very thoroughly, but I think now we might actually see an end to it. This stuff that was in the indictments should have been in a report rather than in indictments. I think he's pretty much at the end. There's nothing else much here, I doubt.
Yeah, and all of these people who were indicted, they will never see justice. They're Russians, and they're back in Russia, and they're not going to really see accountability at all. So, and they have nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Well, these are PR indictments, but my problem is when they weigh on the presidency, when they in fact carry out our foreign policy. If we want to try to wean the Soviets off of the Syria-Iran relationship, which really could bring peace, this stands in the way of it. Trump didn't maneuver this appropriately. He should have acted differently. Nevertheless, that should be our foreign policy objective.
Well, the problem started with the appointment of Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General of the United States, who immediately recuses himself, and then he turns around and fires James Comey, which then in turn triggers the special counsel. So some of this was the president's own making, quite frankly.
And the special counsel is having cover for all these guys answering real questions, because anytime they say, you know, Devin Nunes and his colleagues want to know what was the evidence you had that you launched an investigation into Donald Trump. Where is this evidence of collusion? But every time you bring that up, they say, oh, this is an active investigation. We can't discuss it. So the special counsel's cover for all these guys not answering how they came up with this narrative of collusion.
So, Mark, is it your view that there was Russian interference, but there wasn't collusion?
Well, I think there has been now evidence of Russian hacking, but no evidence of collusion. So that evidence hasn't been tested, but it's real evidence. And I think the most interesting thing in the evidence was the email that said, Donald Trump has a 25% chance of winning. We should play up this conflict between Sanders and Hillary, thereby showing that this was just an effort to disrupt things in America, not really to tilt the election one way or the other, that their idea was here, maximum disruption of America.
So what should the president be doing when there's interference but not collusion? How should he be handling that situation?
He's got to have a calmer reaction, not let it get to him. Look, he's got to do his business. The economy is humming. Let the legal team handle the investigation. He should do the job of president.
Mark, great to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Penn.